Hello.
Hi.
Welcome to the podcast. On this episode, we're talking to a new friend of ours, Horace Flournoy.
So Horace is the founder of SwayBrand, and their company helps brands connect to their target audience through diverse Authentikas.
Now, what Authentika is, it's like a new form of influencer because it's not just from the top down, but they actually live and breathe in communities. They're community leaders and brand ambassadors that, get this, actually like the brand that they're getting sponsored by.
Yeah, this conversation had a lot to do with trust and authenticity, and that's what's really missing in influencer marketing right now. That SwayBrand is really doing some fantastic work, making it more like a dating site where both sides have to approve, both brands have to approve, before joining into anything more serious. So this is a great conversation. If you're watching this on YouTube, it's coming right up. And if you want to listen via audio, there's plenty of other options as well. But enjoy the show.
Enjoy.
Great. Well, we're in conversation with Horace Flournoy. Horace, when you get a chance. I'm so focused on your last name. We usually start off with you starting off giving us a little information about who you are and what you do.
Yeah, who I am. I'm a technologist from Chicago, born and raised Chicagoland area, right outside South Suburbs. Had a very blessed childhood filled with sports and video games and family.
There you go.
Really just caught an entrepreneurship bug sometime after undergrad, and that led me to wanting to jump into it. So through a series of life interactions and people that I had met along the way, got an incredible opportunity to connect with Israel Adonijah, and my co-founder at the time. We kind of brainstormed an initial concept, which is now SwayBrand, and we saw a lot of inefficiencies from a couple of sides. Number one, we thought that the average brand manager stood to be better connected to more diverse people, right? Many of these brand marketing teams throughout America, throughout corporate America, are absolutely dominated by a homogenous looking team. Mm-hmm. But marketing is driven by creativity, and even when it comes to the data side of it, and the thing that we realized is that there was so much opportunity lost within a homogenous brand marketing team by not having diversity there, and not having the diversity of different backgrounds and cultures and experiences and perspectives and understandings, and also network. Who do you know? There's a set of people that know a chunk of people, and then another set of people that know very intimately another chunk of people. And true power of creativity is being able to combine a lot of different ideas, a lot of different perspectives, and so we realized that, and we went on to kind of attack that. And we talked to more people, and we realized that there was also a lot of inefficiencies with how this kind of brand ambassador, I think, from an 80th percentile bell curve, so maybe not your super uber mega star, but kind of most of the rest. Mm-hmm. In how they can connect to these brands, and why there was a kind of a gap in the efficiency and the execution for getting brand deals, right? And so we had an intimate understanding about that through the people, like Bane said on the Dark Knight Rises, the people, the people. Mm-hmm. But anyway, so we set out to just attack those two sides of the marketplace in our founding of SwayBrand.
Yeah. So, hearing that you're from Chicago makes a lot of sense that you ended up partnering up with Israel Adonijah, who we know and was very surprised We don't know him personally, but we know of him. We saw him, wrecking O-linemen and hitting quarterbacks. But that's fascinating. Definitely, and this will be a very, very short little side note. Don't want to spend too much time on it. But how did that happen?
No, it's a great question. It's really part of one of the key moments in the history of our company. And by the way, I'm just the same as you all. I remember just watching them on TV with the Bears, and it was funny because like whenever they put them in, I was like, "Ooh, something good is about to happen." You remember that? It was just like he always got the tackle for loss, sack. It was just like it's like yes, Izzy is in. It's like see, I know something's good about to happen. On deep.
He was really easy to pick out too because he had the neck brace thing on, So he was, oh, there he is. Yeah. I know who that is. It's just not a faceless number.
Yeah.
So go ahead.
Well, quickly the story. I walked on the football team at the University of Illinois. I got a family of like D1 football players, and one of my older cousins, Dwayne Lyle, was a kind of this blue chip athlete at the University of Illinois. Watched him play, so I wanted to kind of follow in his footsteps. So I only ended up playing football there for a year, but while I was there, I met a couple of folks that went on to the NFL and managed to stay in touch with some of those guys through some of our mutual friends. And I was actually walking through the Soho house, and I saw Kelvin and Jason having a meeting with Izzy, and I know both of these guys through Buddy Cam, and we had just got done talking about Izzy, and we were like literally within the last 72 hours, and then I saw him, I was like, this is my moment. Right. So, and I was like, this is my moment. So I was fortunate enough to be able to just walk into the meeting. I kind of barged in. But Jason is cool. Kelvin is mad cool. And I just grabbed Izzy for a second, like, look, trying to, looking to meet you for, pitch this idea that we have to you. And he's like, take down my email. And that's how it started. So
that's crazy. Well, that just goes to show you, especially if you see somebody, speaking to anybody and somebody in that conversation that, especially saying you were talking about him 72 hours earlier. I mean,
literally.
There. Yeah. Right. Yeah. So that's a little side story there that I know that we were curious about because we saw it, and I was like, Israel Adonijah. I'm like, that can't be the same guy. And then there it is on his LinkedIn. On his LinkedIn page, it says, defensive tackle for the Bears. I was like, okay. Yeah. I guess it is the same guy.
How did that happen?
Yeah. Right.
He's been pivotal for us. Truly a monster for us in the creation and. Yep. Creation and scale for SwayBrand.
Yeah, not just a monster of the Midway. There is a monster for the SwayBrand as well. So one of the things that really struck me is when, and I cannot remember for the life of me, I think it might have been Nick Blackburn. He used to work at Insperity. I was talking to him. Was it Blackburn? Blackbird? Can never remember his last name.
Yeah.
Anyways, but he introduced us. He thought that it would be an interesting conversation. And at the time, with influencer marketing and everything, and what we were seeing with influencer marketing, we were pretty down on it. It seemed like what was happening is that these brands were just blanketing as many people that they thought might fit the demographic of the audience they were looking for. And it always came off so disingenuous. There was a few people on YouTube that I watch pretty much every day that do, they promote stuff that they get paid to do. And it's really easy to see when it's something that they like and they actually use, and when they don't like it and they don't actually use it. Right. Mm-hmm. And it comes off in a certain way. And at a certain point, you really do have to, if you're looking for an influencer, you're looking for somebody that will not only like, oh yeah, this is the brand. I enjoy the brand, but it's like, this is something that I use. This is something that like I believe in, which I think is what you're talking about with SwayBrand, with the diversity aspect, trying to get people that aren't known as influencers per se, because they don't have 100 million followers, right? Getting them involved, because those micro communities that actually, those community leaders that actually have sway over people, thus the name SwayBrand, right? That it actually can benefit the brand over long periods of time rather than just relying on the big name people.
Yeah.
I guess that's exactly what I was thinking. I was like, wow, that's part of our founding story, and one of the things that we realized. And so what, to liken it to, we took a lot of cues, and we took a lot of learnings from the world of dating apps a few years ago, and then even still to today. It's a lot of it is really baked into the unique software and platform that we built. But when you're dating someone, very, very rarely, I guess I'll never say never, but very rarely will someone meet, match, and then automatically get married, right? Well, we liken that to the way that the system works now, with how many brands and what you're referring to, essentially, Frank, that many brands choose and consummate relationships with influencers with that very same process, right? With this, hey, look, I see this profile. Oh, let's sign and seal the deal. Let's send them an offer. Let's go. Well, SwayBrand, from the very beginning, we were like, you know what, that's broken. That's really broken, and that's actually a little ridiculous. And so we've inserted a step between that. And we think that there should be a little bit of data behind how that brand is choosing that brand ambassador, but also giving the brand ambassador, as we call them, the Authentika, more power and control to choose the brand. So in other words, having a real two-way matching system, wherein, hey, look, if you're a brand, number one, that this person likes you just as much as as you like them, right? And then there's a data layer in between. So there's again two innovations there, instead of a one-sided approach where a brand is saying, hey, look at this person's profile, this is awesome, let's do it, let's send them an offer. Let's also confirm that from the actual person, right, that they're interested in, and have the person opt in to this brand's user-generated content call, this brand's opportunity for an affiliate deal, or this brand's opportunity to send free product, right? So a lot of minutia, a lot of stories in between those lines there, but ultimately we want this two-way matching system, and that's what we've innovated around. And then that is even further supported by a data layer that both the brand and the actual influencer, or Authentika, again, as we call them, verify before an actual deal is made and negotiations are made for content, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah. That makes a lot of sense, especially with the dating app. I mean, you're basically going. My mind went a million miles an hour. Sorry, I came back to Earth after visiting Mars briefly, but because I went on a million different tangents. But that's literally when you're talking about who your brand. Let's start from the brand side. When you talk about who you as a brand associate with, right? It shouldn't be just, oh, look, they're in the right market. There's got to be something else there to kind of entice you to go yes, swipe right, just use the dating app.
And I also think it's really interesting that you guys figured out what basically we've known about the economy for a long time. Trickle down economics doesn't work just as much as trickle down influence doesn't work.
Right.
It's like, if they have a big thing, it doesn't mean that your brand is going to be necessarily a fit, and your influence will trickle down as
everybody that they have. Right,
exactly.
At that point, it doesn't even really matter about how many subscribers they have, or whatever.
If it's a good fit, if that brand works and they actually like the brand, then it'll work, and you'll get that influence. But if it doesn't match on either side, it's not going to work. It's not going to trickle down, because it's going to come off as disingenuous and as paid ad.
Yeah, like a trickle down influence. There's a good point where that's not sorry, Reagan, it's not working out.
Well, yeah. And that's what we're trying to disrupt. We're trying to disrupt that entire mode of thought. And that's how the market started. But that's really not how it should how it should grow.
Right.
And that's what we are changing actively with our platform and our ethos and how we're evangelizing our model.
Yeah. And then taking it from the influencer side too, I mean, the whole idea here is that, if you're able to really gain some sort of influence, or, you're an authentic guy knowing in this certain area, that you should be picky and choosy about who you take on as a business partner, as somebody that you would then give to your audience. It shouldn't only be about the money, which sometimes it will be, of course, but for a lot of it should be like, no, I actually believe in this. And that can only serve both parties better when both of them believe in each other, right?
Correct.
I'm just thinking about this terrible. I don't know how often you watch daytime television, but we're a big Maury fan over here, Maury family. So we watch it at 1 or 2 o'clock, and there's always just the worst commercials you've ever seen on, which are always a lot of fun to make fun of. One of them is Ink and Law, and Ink and Law just recently had Wilson Contreras again pitching Ink and Law. Right, that's an example of Wilson Contreras. Everybody knows Wilson Contreras in Chicago. I mean, especially if you're on the north side. He'd be perfect to sell our law firm about injury. And Wilson Contreras is standing. He's shooting it at home, obviously, because he can't be next to Ink, and not that anybody would really want to be. and he's standing there. He's going like he says his look. When you need an injury lawyer, go to. But that's that idea of that trickle down influence, where it's like, all of Wilson's fans or Cubs fans in general are then going to think about Ink and Law right off the bat. When in reality, that connection doesn't seem to make any sense.
Yeah, right.
It's not. It's quite frankly an inauthentic connection. I mean, taking out the star power, and we love Wilson Contreras, but it's just an example of an inauthentic connection. But it's a seduction, right? That I think most brands kind of fall into, is like, they automatically think, and I've done it myself. Automatically think that if you surround your name with this powerful or well-known celebrity, athlete, artist, entertainer, etc., then it's automatically going to work. And in some cases, you're going to get the awareness, of course, because of his or her platform. But the ultimate is to go past awareness, right? In marketing, in most cases, you want action. You want some sort of an action after the awareness, and so. That's where it starts to falter.
Yeah. Right. Well, that's what we say all the time, right? I mean, we could pay right now, take this little clip of you saying, like you want something more than awareness. We can go on Facebook, Instagram, everywhere, and pay an exorbitant amount of money for millions of people to see it, right? Anybody could do that, right? And then at the end of the day, it's like, well, that doesn't really lead to
what you want it to lead to,
which is revenue, which is conversion, whatever that might be. I mean, we're very active in the entertainment space, and we've been funneling around with a sales funnel that is more of an attention funnel, right? We don't want them to buy anything. We want them to be involved in the story over a long period of time, right? So that's what that conversion is. But if I were just to sit there and blast out, like one trailer to one movie, and then expect over and over again these people to be invested in, part 2 or part 3, and if they don't have any reason to come back, then it's not going to work. Brand awareness is all fine and dandy until you don't have any money left to pay for food.
Literally, So,
it's that, and I think that's what's really missing in the understanding in marketing in general. I mean, we talk about this stuff all the time about there's the idea that we want as many people to see it as possible, but we also want the people that see it, a good chunk of those people, to then convert into brand ambassadors. And I think that using the word brand ambassador over influencer helps distinguish it a lot. Or Authentikas, right? Is that the word that you're using for the influencer brand ambassador?
Yeah, that was really the inspiration behind coming up with our own word, Frank, and seeing the word influence. It just didn't have a really good overall sentiment.
Yeah.
If you could assign, and I haven't done this research, but if you can assign a real net promoter score to the word influencer, especially as it relates to influencers themselves, I don't think it'd be very high, honestly. And I think that it dipped down probably a year and a half ago, somewhere in 2019, to probably an all-time low. But in some ways, I think it's leveled off a little bit. But we wanted to get in and establish our own word, and we thought that there was an opportunity there to rebrand it and re-establish re-emphasize really the word authentic, right? And the meaning and the reason for why, but also what we saw in other platforms that we're competing against is they've really started to commoditize these people.
Yeah.
And getting back to your previous comment, we want to champion people, and we think that when a person forms a relationship with a brand, those are two brands coming together. And so that's like one of our
exactly.
That's a collab. That's a collab between brand entities, and that's why we call we have a slogan called "I am a brand." Specifically for our Authentikas, because we think that every individual, their own uniqueness, their own likeness, their own diverse background should be championed.
Yeah,
and that's what we do. And we don't commoditize the individuals. We champion them, and we feature and highlight diversity.
Yeah, right. Yeah, that's something that we've spoken to a few people about too, is how that the individual then becomes a brand, right?
Right.
Like Jack and me, we have a brand that's like together. It's not Clovis Point. It's more Jack and Frank from Clovis Point. But we have our own individual brand. But then Jack has his own individual brand, and I have my own as well.
Right.
And the sooner that you're able to realize that, especially for somebody who's in a position that they have a lot of sway over certain people, that they have a large like if they're seen as an expert in a field, right? We don't have to keep on going back to YouTube or Instagram followers or anything, but they're seen as an expert in a field. You go back to those commercials with doctors coming on with prescription meds, like, I take these every day, right? Or the cigarette smoking doctors that say, this is the healthiest cigarette I've ever smoked. But when you have those experts, that's really where you're looking for. And those people have their own brands. And I love what you said. I love what you said, that those are two brands coming together. That's not me hiring you to do something. It's, hey, this would be good for both of us. This as the Authentikas, I'm here going, I'm going to help my followers, my community, by partnering up with you to be able to get the awareness out of this product, service, brand, whatever.
And this kind of goes back to something that we always talk to about on the podcast. It's the collective journey, which I think it's really important, because it's a different idea of how, because you were talking earlier about homogenization and how that's just it goes to a lot of people, but it does not impact anyone individually at all. Right. Like it's like, it just doesn't describe what you want it to describe, and it just comes off as some blanket platitude, like there are plenty of fish in the sea. And like, what the hell does that mean? I don't know. That doesn't really, like, am I going to be like have an epiphany on that? No. And so one of the things about the collective journey, as opposed to your regular hero's journey, which is a storytelling method, is like there are different perspectives. There are different perspectives in the whole, and they're all equally valued.
That's it.
And so that's exactly what I feel like you guys are really kind of tapping into, is that porous story, that different perspective that actually creates this well-rounded story instead of this homogenized one coming from the top down.
Yeah.
Yep. I love that.
Yeah. Yeah, and the collective journey is was of course
Jeff Gomez.
written by Jeff Gomez, who more than willing to, or more than happy to send in his blog posts on it because it's really, really fascinating.
We also,
but I'm sure you would.
We had him on the podcast.
We had him on the podcast too. He's the premier storyteller of our time that nobody knows about.
I would love to. I would love to read that blog post, and one of the things.
Yeah. I think it's going to be. You're like with us. We kind of tapped into we understood it, but he really kind of. He really kind of nails it down for you, something that you felt innately.
Yeah.
But he really nails it down for you, and you're like, wow, that's why this is so. This is why this is working. This is why this is not working anymore.
Right.
And it's one of the great things about the internet is that it kind of allows you to the barrier to entry to get your voice out there has really been kind of leveled, so that you don't have those old gatekeepers. And so that's where you get these ideas, like all of these perspectives and diverse voices actually talk about the whole in a better way than the whole can talk about it down to the different perspectives.
Well, yeah, but easier said than done there. Because Jack, a lot of these diverse voices are indeed long tail, and you go back to a little data. I think the average white American has, out of 100 people that they know, like 1 or 2 Black people. And so there's a disconnect in some of these fundamental networks. And so, easier said than done, because a lot of those diverse voices from different communities and different areas of the country aren't connected to the people inside these brand marketing teams. And so, you look at someone's, I'd love to see a kaleidoscope on just how different people's Instagram feeds are, and the people that you follow, the people that you're connected to across cultures, because I'm willing to bet that they're vastly different as you break down cohorts. And so, it's a challenge, and that's something that we want to help bridge the gap on. We've seen it personally, and we think that it's very important to start to establish and bring back more brand equity and bring back more individual brand equity. So the equity back to the Authentika, right? That are out there creating cool stuff and trends and memes and many commercials, if you will, many advertisements for brands, in many cases for free. It's content. And so our platform really wants to get that into the forefront and get that connected directly back to that brand. And that's our challenge. And that's that's the vision that we have. And that's what we're so excited about. And then I love that. I really do want to read that blog post, because this collective journey speaks to what we're trying to build as a voice and activate within our platform, which is allowing brands need to understand that they need to make these diverse connections in a more authentic way, number one. But then once you have that level of trust established, let it ride. Let this very authentic person to your brand, to each other's brand, start helping you tell your brand story in their voice, right? So a collective journey of brand stories from different cultures and different backgrounds, we think is ultimately, and it's something that we're not seeing to date. And that's what we're really trying to unlock, is getting this brand to understand, hey, look, first of all, we all know word of mouth marketing is the best thing ever, right? Yeah. And so as a kind of meta to that, if you can get someone and understand that, hey, look, Frank loves my brand and he uses it every day, but he's got stories behind it. He's like, oh man, I use this for, they don't tell you can use it for that, but I use it for, for X, Y, and Z instead of A, B, C. And, you're telling your friends, you're telling your mom, you're telling your siblings or family and friends, Frank, that is the ultimate level of marketing, because that has so much more of a trust factor. But again, you're talking about that brand through your own voice, through your own journey, through your own experience.
Yeah.
Right. And that is ultimately effective. Now, if we can unlock that for a brand to establish that authentic relationship with someone that happens to have 100,000 followers, now you can amplify a really authentic word of mouth promotion through content.
I love having these conversations. Don't you, Jack? Because this is 100% exactly the reason. Everything that you just said there was, I thought that you were repeating what I said because we had a podcast before that I said that word of mouth is the best form of advertising, and it was the best. It was the original and forever will be the best way to get people to try anything new. And I was like, but I didn't say that. That was an hour ago.
That was the last podcast we did.
That was an hour ago. So Horace, 100%. And I don't see how we can't partner up in the future to make this stuff happen, because this is legitimately what we're trying to get people to understand. Through what we call it the evolution of attention, where you have content that builds on itself, right? And so what you're referring to with the brand ambassador, the Authentika that's coming back to the brand and saying, hey, this is what this means to me. This is what I'm hearing from my crowd. That's porous storytelling. And that's in the collective journey. And you'll read about that. But that is porous storytelling. That is the story being told by the brand, then being told back to it. Through the eyes of the people that are using it. And how I got goosebumps. You can see how powerful that is. That's the power.
That is the power. And what we see is that power, that ultimate, I believe that is in 2021, the ultimate way of marketing that is not being done with any level of efficiency because of some problems that we have, right? But also because we do need a technology solution, that we think is SwayBrand that does that intersection, right? That can intersect authenticity with diversity, and both are, the intersection is super hard.
You're right. And here the linesicle grows for our avid podcast listeners. I have this thing in my head that looks like a line that has a bow underneath, so it's a linesicle. It's a half a line, half a circle.
Like a half circle, basically, is what most people call it.
I've mentioned to you the guy that we talked to out in New York that does the insights that eventually we'll introduce you to. He's had his head down for the past 2 months. Hopefully that'll happen soon. That does that deep listening, that understands, like what the consumer is actually looking for, what they're, basically giving a good rounded, like consumer profile in a way, and their wants and needs and desires surrounding a brand, product, or service. And then you take that, and then you take those insights and you bring it to us who can tell that story over a long period of time through content that builds off of each other. And then you can then take that same story and that same kind of brand identity that you find out, and then bring that to your point, right? There's that intersection between getting the feedback from the Authentikas that are actually coming back with like all of this raw data that they're hearing from the people that are paying attention to them, that are saying like, oh, well, you know what they're actually doing with this is this. And that's invaluable. And then that rats back into the story. And that rats back into your, the sales funnel and the customer journey optimization towards the end of that linesicle. But the sickle part is the follow-up. It's the feedback loop. That's so important that nobody really talks about. But to your point, there is a need to be able to get that. And I think that what you're talking about is an excellent way and an excellent part of that feedback loop to be able to get that information back.
Absolutely. They have a level of intimacy with the people that follow them that quite frankly that the brand doesn't have. And it's a little harder to quantify, from an API feed, but I think it's that's why we've established this relationship. This relationship needs to happen. And so, yeah, there's a definitive human to human element to this, right? That will always need to be there, because there's just some things that you're going to understand, right, or have this innate sense for, that that an algorithm can't provide, right? And so that's extremely important. And that's why these connections, that's why the connections, this basic fundamental, like the connection of a person at a company to another person is so very important. It's important.
That's what it is. It's all relationships at the end of the day. And I think that, like, one of the things that really clouds the judgment of a brand is that you see this amazing connections that some of these people have, just going off. And I don't know if you're familiar with Good Mythical Morning, but they have this amazing following of, like, I don't know, like 2 billion followers on YouTube, right? It's not that high. I'm sure they're getting there though, right? And how there are people that they integrate them into their daily schedules. Like, oh, this is when I watch them. They come out every day during the work week. This is when I watch them. This is who they are. This is why I follow them. And it's a part of their day. And a brand sees that and goes like, oh my God, look at all those captive eyes. Yeah. Look at all those people that just anything that they do, right? Mm-hmm. They could literally start. Actually, one of them just started to do acting, but like they could literally do anything. They could start a new show about their skiing adventures as I look out onto all the snow that's outside, right? And people will follow them and people will watch them.
Yeah.
And it's so alluring to these brands because they're like, wow, that's what we want. So here, put me in front of your content so that all these eyes get on top of it. And it's really an educational type of thing, because for a long time, and I've mentioned this to you, that Tom Kennan, who's not the influence guy, the insight guy. Thank you. Starts with an I. He was really down. Like, he really does not like influencer marketing, strictly because he's like, nothing's changed. It's the same thing that was going on with Mickey Mantle, doing a TV promo for Wheaties. I don't know if that ever happened. It seems like it probably would have, though. Like you have, nothing's really changed, right? Because you're using the person that has all the attention to try to sell. And so there's an educational aspect of this
and one of the things that I think it was on that podcast we had with him is he was like, I don't know of anyone that can do that type of, anyone who's doing this type of marketing that you're talking about, which is find people that actually are like in the weeds with what this brand means, that are community leaders that people actually listen to. Because the thing is that it's like when you go to those big influencers and you put your brand in front of them, the buck stops there. It doesn't go down to people. It's like, yeah. And for all my microphone uses, I use this microphone, and everybody's like, okay. But like, if it was like if he was really invested in that, it would make a lot more sense, because he's a leader in the microphone business, or whatever the hell it is. And that makes more sense, because now you have people that are actually like, everything this guy or everything this person is recommended, it works really well, and he's really good on audio. And so this is why I listen to his stuff, Well, it just makes more sense.
What everything that you guys are saying right now, it boils into this bucket called trust.
Sure.
If you really break it down, most of the channels we follow, most of the things we follow, or that have our attention, we trust them for some reason. Sure. Now I might trust this Instagram account to provide, some sexy photos. I might trust this Instagram account. I might trust this account to provide information and education. Mm-hmm. I might trust this other account to the YouTuber, Frank, to give me a wild card. I don't want to know what you're gonna do next.
Sure.
Film yourself with some sharks. The next video, film yourself doing a bungee jump off of something. I don't care. give me that wild card. But there's some level of trust. There's something that you there's a reason why you follow, or why you're giving your attention to these things, right? And ultimately, I think that a guy like Mr. Keenan probably saw a lot of broken. He saw the market broken because what influencer has done, essentially, the dark side of it is that it has started to breach people's trust in why they follow or why they are giving their attention to a particular person. And that's, there it is. Once you start to breach that trust, then and so that's why, again, we harkening back to taking these extra layers of taking these extra steps, rather, for number one, a relationship to be established, and then again having a little bit of data, for why this could work, but getting this two-sided handshake, right? Like, look, I really dig this new thing. I got some ideas around it. Send me like 3 others. I'm going to send them to my cousins. Those are the types of relationships that will ultimately produce strong content, and the strongest, most authentic content. Now, at the end of the day, we also know that there's money involved, right? As we're following individuals, following people, folks know that, and I think that should be very transparent. But in that transparency, I think it's forgiven, right? It's forgiven if what is happening is really authentic.
Yeah. Right, exactly. And I love what you said about the whole trust aspect. We had, and I have to introduce you to Larry Long Jr., who's the director of collegiate sales, and essentially what their whole thing is they're trying to get these athletes to then become like the recruiters for those universities by providing them with photos and videos from the actual, like, instantly. Like, as soon as they get off the court, they have all the photos. There are technology tags based on facial recognition and number recognition. It's fascinating stuff. And we also had him on the podcast as well. But
I'd love to connect with him briefly, because we have a conversation moving from a couple different angles for that very same opportunity, and not as it relates to college athletes, but as it relates to let's say a Getty Images or Sports Illustrated. With professional athletes, and I'd love to sync with that gentleman.
Yeah. Well, he's a ball of energy. Let me tell you something. Yeah. He's a lot of fun. He will surprise you when you get on the call. So just be prepared.
Right. He's gonna.
It takes you a sec to adjust to his energy level.
He's a ball of energy.
He is a ball of energy. But anyways, what we were talking about on that podcast was very similar to what you just said with the trust aspect, right? And so he was talking about how LeBron James only endorses every so often a few things because he believes in them, right? And what was the other basketball player that he?
No, it wasn't a basketball player.
No, it was a soccer player, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was a soccer player. But he only does. Basically, the difference between someone who's taking the money because they actually believe in the product versus something that's just taking the money and they really have no connection to whatever they're selling. They're just like, this is me and this is the product. Versus how LeBron James tends to integrate the stuff that he promotes into his life, and it makes more sense.
Right.
Yes.
And it really does destroy the trust, and you will unfollow people when it becomes too preachy like that.
Mean, and also it comes to the point too, what you were touching on too, is like we follow accounts for this and people are really like, I don't know of anyone now who follows haphazardly. And if you do follow haphazardly, no one likes to follow you because it's like, why are you following like 10,000 people? It's like, we really do curate our content it's like, do I have something similar? Am I fulfilling this same person? Do I need to see 2 of these sexy pictures right after each other, or does one of them suffice?
Maybe,
I don't want it to just be like,
everybody on this podcast, they're men. So obviously that was the first thing that came up.
No, but like, it's like, do I need how many workout influencers do I need? Does this person really, like, is he like right now he's working for me, but in a couple of months I want to do more full body workouts instead of just targeting stuff. So it's like, everyone is you really do curate your own feed, and you see what you want to see, and sometimes you change it up.
It doesn't take a lot to get you to change it up.
Right, it really doesn't. If someone's posting like, well, I don't know why the hell it went from workout videos to glamour photos, but that's not what I followed this account for.
Right.
So I unfollow that account and I replace it with someone who's doing more of this.
Sure.
To fulfill that need. So yeah, it's like there's that huge trust thing now where people are actually curating the content, and the people you follow for a reason.
That's it. Yep. We try to curate. We try to curate, Jack.
Every so often, two sexy pictures pop up. It's no one's fault.
Precisely. So,
This just going back to the whole trust aspect of it too. I mean, that goes all the way to the brand as well. I mean, if you really want to start to build long attention for your brand, you best be on top of your game for everything that your brand associates itself with as well. So like going back to the whole dating style of SwayBrand, which is, once again, I think it's absolutely genius, right? You gotta really do your research in to make sure that that's somebody that you want to use it in the first place, regardless of how much money that could possibly make you in the future.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
It goes back, and also like you have to. It's like the brand trust is like the two brands are, it's one thing, but I think the big brand, the one that's paying the influencer or the authenticator, has to also realize that person has immense insight into what is actually going on. And the fact that, if they're going to produce content, there has to be a lot of trust in that person. And you have to know that trust, because the stuff you're going to get from this person is going to be immensely more impactful than whatever someone who's designing the Super Bowl commercial is going to ever figure out. Because there's they have those connections. They're really in the trenches of what's going on in that community, in that space. And that is where you get the nuggets of gold. And that's what we were talking about with poor storytelling. It's going to change and it's going to evolve, and that's okay.
Yeah, right.
I agree. Yep. And it has to evolve. I love what you said earlier too, Frank. Content that builds on.
Yeah.
And that's what you ultimately want. You as a brand, I think, in someone telling your brand story from their voice and from their perspective, it's just going to look a lot different than if you pull together a video production team and try to lay it out for everybody, right? And so, seriously. And so I think that's really, really powerful, is to have that diversity of thought and perspective, and have that authentic, which, and by the way, Jack, so we've created a way for all content. It has to be approved. Everything through the SwayBrand platform, and that gets sent back and forth between brand and person is ultimately private until it's not, right? So without getting lost in the minutia how it works, but so there are some there's some gateways here that we built into to our software, but
and just going off of what you said, like going back to content that builds off itself. I mean, the idea of poor storytelling is understanding that the content that you end up producing as a brand, right, whether or not that's whichever brand we're talking about, isn't going to be the only thing that's going to influence the story. Like the storytelling aspect is going to happen all over the place across platforms. It's called transmedia, right? It's going all over the place and representing itself in a whole bunch of different ways, right? Whether that's in person, whether that's podcasting, blog posting, regular social media posts about something, complaint reviews, people saying that it's the best thing ever. All these things, that's all storytelling, right? We have to get out of our own heads here to think that, if you were to hire, somebody out there to shoot a commercial for you and then be like, and that's the story everybody thinks about the brand. It's totally wrong. It's totally wrong. Think about Robinhood. Robinhood had an ill-advised commercial that didn't end up, was it on the Super Bowl? I don't remember. I should know that stuff, but I don't. But it was ill-advised because it really was another commercial with like, we're for the little people. It contradicted everything that had happened. all of the commentary, all the angry people that were like, "What are you doing, making me that I can't invest in GameStop because you're trying to protect the the upper echelons of the hedge fund managers and everything." And they came out with something that was totally tone deaf.
Yeah.
Tone deaf. It was totally tone deaf. It was like, oh no, well, that's not who we are. I mean, that's what we do, but that's not who we are. Some bullshit like that, right?
Yeah.
And it totally destroyed it. And that's like the opposite. They were trying to hijack the conversation to make it more about what they wanted to say instead of really just listening to the stories that were being told about how frustrated people were with their response to people buying GameStop stock. Yeah. And the whole idea of that uprising. So storytelling does not take place on one platform. It involves everything from the authenticator or the authenticator. When you said that, I thought of the Terminator. I was like, I don't know if that's the right one. Authentica. From the Authentica to the I'm just thinking about the Terminator now. But yeah, so, and I'm sure as I listen to the podcast back when I'm editing, I'll be like, oh, you had the idea, it was there, it would have been a great segment, now it's gone. I apologize, future Frank. But yeah, so there really is something there that I wanted to continue to talk about, but I totally forgot what it was. I'm like totally on a different planet now.
It's okay. It happens sometimes. Yeah, it happens to everybody.
It's all good.
Yeah, but everything that we're talking about is resonating so hard. Yeah. Oh, I was talking about storytelling, right? And so the storytelling stuff that's happening with the Authentica and the people that listen to the Authentica and their stories and what they're telling their friends, it's all the storytelling. And a brand really needs to be able to monitor that. So if you're then the SwayBrand within that platform being able to have that back and forth and them saying like, hey, listen, this is what I'm hearing. This is what I'm seeing. Just letting you know that you should, that's the porous, that's the story coming from the ground up, that you should start to integrate in your own more, I don't know, like common or regular type of content story arc. If they build a story world, all the better.
Right. They got your main story arc and you got your little subsidiary stories that come around and influence the greater story. I mean,
exactly. But you have to allow that to then influence it.
Right. You have to. And that's what I was talking about with, how the brand needs to trust the people that they, the content that they can produce, because that's really what ends up. It's like if it's a ship or a snake or whatever the hell I'm doing with my arms here, it's like it's what keeps it on the same track. It's what keeps it from veering off to something that's totally disconnected from what the people are actually seeing. It's like that's what it corrects that ship or the snake or whatever the hell it is. But yes, that's where the trust has to come, because it helps balance it. It helps keeps it on that path that it needs to be on.
Right.
Yeah, and then ultimately, I think what it does is when you unlock that, you enable your brand to speak to specific audiences, right? Mm-hmm. And, there's a different Hispanic community in LA than it is in Houston, than it is in Miami, and the opportunity lies in getting a different Hispanic Latinx voice, right, to speak specifically for Miami or specifically for the Houston market or specifically for LA County, right, and getting those voices and getting that content out to those folks in those specific areas. So we think that it's a tremendously powerful concept and opportunity. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, absolutely. You can go in depth it as far as you want. You can find only and Hispanics that like this type of thing, that often attend these type of events. You can get so far down specific.
Yeah. For all of us. Yeah, for all of us. And the shotgun approach.
Right, exactly.
It's done.
Yeah.
That's something that we say all the time, too. Are you listening to the podcast or just repeating what we're saying? That's what it's starting to seem like.
On such a same wavelength.
Yeah, right. Exactly. Shotgun approach it's done. We have the opportunity with all the data and all the information and all the avenues to be as specific and get all the information we could possibly want. Shotgun approach. If that's your style, you're operating out of like driving like an Oldsmobile that's like missing half of its wheels, so
right,
it's riding on two wheels.
It's
like you're behind. There's modern things that go.
Yeah, it's you're just hoping and guessing you're gonna hit something.
Right.
It's like, we got much more clear-cut ways to do this.
Yeah,
exactly. Well, great. Well, Horace, this has been a fantastic conversation. The hour just absolutely flew by. Yeah. We usually end off with some words of wisdom. Anything that you think kind of summarizes the conversation that we just had. Yeah.
Well, I mean, it was pretty beefy and definitely fun. So I really thank you for this opportunity to hop on stage with you gentlemen. But
of course,
it's, again, what we're very bullish on the fact that we see a change. We see a change, and we think that corporate leaders, we think that market managers, we think that agencies, the same way we saw revolutions in the past, have probably had to change. Boom. Oh, people are at war. I got to hire women, right? Oh, boom. People can start traveling, and this world just became connected through air travel. Or, oh, boom, communication revolution. Oh, how do I adapt my business to that? Oh, boom, computers. What's a computer? Why should we have computers at work? Right?
Sure. Yeah.
In the 80s, and 70s, 80s. So, this what we're in right now is an evolution. It's part of human society continuing to evolve. And this is just the latest thing for a leader to own adapting on, right? Those great leaders of those great companies in the past, in those past decades, have all adapted, right? Yeah. And we see no difference right now from this need to adapt to a more diverse workplace. Yeah. And that's and solutions, right? More diverse workplace and solutions. So anyway, that's kind of that's my last thought.
Yeah. Homogenization is dead. Yeah. No one wants that now. Yeah. There's no one, like, it's like one of the worst things about the pandemic was that the fear is that there's going to be an Applebee's on every corner and all the diverse restaurants are going to be closed. No one wants it. No one wants an Applebee's on every corner. No one even wants to go to Applebee's. They are not actually, you know what? Now they're going to ask me to be a sponsor.
Yeah, right there.
Totally tone deaf.
Exactly.
You said Applebee's 3-4 times on the podcast. You must like it, right? Hilarious. Right now, everybody's going to go get some baby back ribs. Yeah, and the part that you mentioned, the revolution idea, I think you and Tom Kennan are going to get along.
Yeah,
perfect. Yeah, it's going to be great. That'll be a great conversation. Yeah, so thanks so much for joining us, Horace. Really appreciate it.
Really appreciate it.
Awesome, guys. Frank, Jack, really appreciate the time. Looking forward to more. Just to more.
Yeah, absolutely.
Whatever's next. Just more.
Yeah. Just more.
Talk about synergy.
Yeah.
Everybody we've been talking to lately, just amazing synergy. And we can't wait to do work with Horace and SwayBrand.
It's just, there's a collection of us that get it. There's a collection of us that get it. And fortunately for us, we're just going to have to slay the beast and take it down and actually make some marketing and advertising and content that people want to consume and actually trust in what they're consuming.
So if you like this conversation, there are plenty of other ones that we could recommend. You can see the list over to the side. Well, actually only one. And Stipulations.
Yeah, there's another Stipulations coming out this Friday. Check it out, guys.
Thanks for all your support.
Thank you guys so much.